Hey everybody, this is the weekly forecast commencing on Monday, April the 8th, 2024. On the 8th is the new moon solar eclipse in fiery, assertive, ambitious Mars. It's also Mercury is retrograde from April the 1st till April the 25th. With the eclipse, the week before and the week after a solar eclipse, there's a darkening of the light, there's hidden information, so you do not want to make very important or life-changing decisions under that period, the week before, the week after the solar eclipse. And you don't want to make important decisions, life-changing decisions in general, under Mercury in retrograde, which started last week till the 25th. So this is a really important time for course correction, revising, doing a lot more due diligence, not yet acting, and especially this week, but to be safe, until after April the 25th. This new moon solar eclipse is it's like a new moon on steroids, and it's trying to give birth to major new energies, influences, goals, directions. Depending on where Aries falls in your chart, what area of the chart lights up, that's where you'll be most impacted. This new moon solar eclipse at 19 Aries is going to be strongly influenced with thinking, decision-making Mercury retrograde at 24 degrees of Aries. So it's just 5 degrees away, still making an impact. Mercury in retrograding, revising, rethinking. With that powerful new moon solar eclipse, a major course correction to go down a new path or to refine these new goals and bring in some new approaches, some fine-tuning before you act on it. Best to wait until after the 25th. I'm going to be doing a video on this new moon solar eclipse. And one of the things I'll be talking about is how ambitious, assertive Mars, the ruler of Aries, is going to be aligned with restricted, compressing Saturn. The frustrating sign, the side of Mars-Saturn is Mars is ambitious. This Sun in Aries is ambitious, but it goes up against a block with Saturn. So there's a lot of restrictedness and frustrations trying to go after your goals, especially in the shadow of the eclipse and with Mercury in retrograde. But the Mars-Saturn is in harmony with protective Jupiter, with lucky, expansive Jupiter. So there's some positive energies if you can stay really focused, not take on a lot of projects. Best if you just focus on one project and be very focused. You could still be tired, but you can accomplish so much with that influence of Jupiter. Now, this, as I said, this new moon solar eclipse is going to be in Aries. So if you have any planets around 19 degrees of Aries or opposite 19 degrees of Libra, whatever that planet represents, will be part of all these major adjustments, trying to renegotiate, going into some new directions or fine-tuning these goals that are coming up. Now, before I break down what is happening each day, if you enjoy these types of videos and would like to see more of them, click like and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can receive the latest postings. And if you go into the description box underneath my video, you'll find direct links to book an astrology reading or to sign up for my free daily message. So beginning with Monday the 8th, with that solar eclipse in Aries, wherever or however Aries impacts your horoscope, that's where your attention is going to be really focused upon. That could be impacting you for 6 months. If it's hitting a planet, even up to a year. But the moon, that represents the public tone, will go void of course that evening, 7:39 p.m. Pacific time, into Tuesday, 4:24 a.m., at which point the moon goes into Taurus. And as I mention every week, the void, of course, is this flat, unproductive energy. It's because the moon, while it's in Aries, it's about ready to change signs when it goes into Taurus. But when it was in Taurus, or when it was in Aries, it wasn't making any more aspects to other planets. So there was no lunar activity. So the energy is flat and unproductive. So if you're launching major new projects, which you wouldn't do with Mercury in retrograde, which you wouldn't do with this first week, full week of this new solar eclipse. But during the moon void, of course, any actions that you would start, new jobs, new projects, and the moon's void, of course, the energy is unproductive. So it's just going to be really hard to get it off the ground. On Tuesday, the 9th, the moon is now in Taurus. Taurus is so different than fiery Aries. That Aries is impatient, it wants to initiate projects, it wants to get going, except because of the eclipse of Mercury in retrograde, and Mercury is also in Aries. It's like, cool your jets, calm down, just start to reevaluate and rethink where you want to go. It's not time yet for the best results to take action. But on the 9th, now the moon's in Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. Aries is a fire sign. Fire, fiery, anxious, impatient. Earth, earthy, grounding, stabilizing, steady, persevering. That moon in Taurus will calm down all this exciting, anxious energies, and it will be in a hard angle to Pluto. Pluto rules the unconscious, Pluto rules the underworld, Pluto rules secrets. But this is around 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. It only lasts for an hour or two, but when the moon, about every 7 days, forms a hard angle to Pluto, there might be these emotional, that's the moon, power struggles. If you're feeling manipulated, controlled, frustrated from others, the best thing to do in general is to go inward and not interact with others outward. And inward, since Pluto can represent the inner world, the unconscious, would be great to do a lot of meditation, introspection. I find the easiest thing to do is check in with your astrologer, because Pluto rules the occult, the underworld. On Wednesday, the 10th, as the moon continues in steady Taurus, the moon in Taurus will cross expansive, optimistic Jupiter in Taurus around noon, maybe up to 1 p.m. Pacific time. This brings a lot of hopefulness, especially with making long-range plans. Anything with Jupiter, education, publishing, traveling. But remember, it's best to be, refocusing on plans from the past, not anything new. But it does give a certain amount of hopefulness, yet not yet time to act. By mid-afternoon, the moon in Taurus will now start crossing, liberating, innovative, exciting Uranus. That moon to Uranus can trigger a lot of emotional excitement or emotional upsets. But it's very favorable because Uranus is liberating, and the moon can represent your patterns, your habits, that maybe mid-afternoon Pacific time on Wednesday the 10th would be a good time to start breaking an old habit, a restricted negative habit. Now Mars, assertive Mars, ruler of Aries, will be crossing over Saturn, as it does once every 2 years. There's the productive side, there's the frustrating side. The frustrating side is the Saturn, which can be more negative, restricted, frustrating. Mars is all that assertive energy. It wants to initiate new projects, but all the retrograde, the eclipse. But that Mars with Saturn in the positive, if you just take one important task or project or goal that you had already started before April the 1st, before Mercury went retrograde, then this could be a really favorable day, the 10th, even into the 11th, to finish up and accomplish major goals. Old goals, not new ones. Mars-Saturn, you'll still be exhausted because you'll be really intensely focused, but you can actually make some important accomplishments with old projects, old goals. On Thursday, the 11th, the moon in steady, persevering Taurus will go void of course 3:04 a.m. to just 6 a.m., at which point the moon goes into Gemini for those next 2.5 days. Taurus can be very slow and steady, step by step, sort of like the hare and the tortoise, where the tortoise wins the race. The Gemini would be like the hare, the rabbit. And as it's in Gemini, emotionally, that's the kind of the overall general public tone. Gemini is restless, it's jumping from one idea to the next, it's running all kinds of errands. That moon in Gemini is where the reactions and emotions are going to be much more impatient and anxious. But it's going to be in harmony with Pluto, 9:11 a.m. Pacific time. Pluto rules the unconscious. It deals with what's hidden, secrets. Pluto could represent psychology, astrology. So that moon to Pluto in the mid-morning Pacific time, you might be really fascinated, interested in psychology, astrology, or really talking about that. Gemini wants to talk about everything, all your deep fears and secrets, but in a healthy way to kind of get perspective. And Mercury, we're still retrograde, Mercury rules the sign Gemini. The moon's in Gemini. So there's a lot of this, focusing on your belief systems, your ideas, but the Mercury will be in retrograde and aligned with the Sun. So the Sun is really spotlighting, bringing it to attention, all of these informations, communications with Mercury, but in retrograde. This would be really the wrong choice with the retrogrades and the eclipse to be making important new decisions. That's the Mercury. But since the Mercury is in retrograde, this could be a really favorable day, especially that moon to Pluto, to be forgiving, revising, going back over misinformation, clearing it all up, getting all of your your expectations and your communications get that more on focus, more on track. And then, of course, in the mid-morning, as I talked about the moon with Pluto, that could be compelling you to do a lot of deep soul-searching, introspection, counseling, astrology reading. And with the Mercury retrograde with the Sun, you could be revising, rethinking your past actions before, starting to really think about it, making plans, what's working, not working for you, but not really ready again to make important actions until Mercury goes direct after the 25th. On Friday, the 12th, the moon from 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time will be blocked, contained, and frustrated by Saturn. And just after the moon is worried and frustrated by Saturn, it then moves one more degree, and now it's in a hard angle to Mars. So that's later in the morning, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. So that whole morning period, Pacific time, that public emotional moon is being frustrated by these two malefic energies. Saturn can feel more blocked, isolated, Mars more irritable, more anxious. What I always tell people, this too shall pass. As we get more towards noon Pacific time, this frustrating energy will start subsiding. On the 13th, the moon continuing in conversational, witty, adaptable Gemini will be going void of course, 7:46 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, at which point that mental moon in Gemini goes into Cancer. Cancer is more emotional, family, nurturing. One of the things with moon in Gemini, once a month, is you're always thinking Gemini, talking Gemini about your feelings. But you're not in your feelings, you're not in the present, you're too busy analyzing, thinking, and discussing about your feelings, as opposed to being in your feelings. I bring that up because as it goes into Cancer, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, Cancer is the sign of feelings. It's ruled by the emotional moon, and the moon is going into Cancer. So once a month, for a couple of days, there's this more compassionate, feeling, emotional reaction. So you're coming out of the moon in Gemini, you're too busy trying to analyze your feelings. Then the moon goes into Cancer and you're in your feelings, or you're being able to express how you feel to close ones and more comfortably. You're going to, with the moon in Cancer, you may want to be more involved with staying closer to home, home projects, being more with family, maybe getting involved with domestic chores, cooking, house cleaning, family events, family gatherings. On Sunday the 14th, moon continues in emotional, nurturing Cancer, but it's going to be in a stressful angle to loving, benefic Venus. These are two moon Venus, or two relational, benefic energies. But mid-morning, 8-9 a.m. Pacific time, they are in hard angles to one another, meaning that in a general sense, you're wanting to feel more nurtured, relax more with family. But with the Venus, you're not, Venus is all that relational compromise, you're feeling out of sync. You're not feeling like you're getting your needs met. So 8, 9, maybe up to 10 a.m. Pacific time, you might be feeling some discord emotionally with your loved ones. This too shall pass. Especially mid-afternoon Pacific time, the moon will now be in harmony with Saturn, when Saturn can be cold and restricted in the negative. when it's supported positively, Saturn gives stabilization, more groundedness, more rootedness. It's much more security oriented. So emotionally, mid-afternoon Pacific time, in harmony with Saturn, whatever was out of sync personally, emotionally earlier in the day with Venus, now with Saturn, maybe that's when there's this forgiveness, or you're getting this better attitude and perspective, and you're feeling less out of sync and more grounded and more emotionally secure. I want to thank you for watching. If you like information on how to book an astrology reading or check out my 2-question offer, visit my website at gardino.go. That's .co. Until next week, be safe and well.